Alright, so this is a gold soldier, and I'm always happy to do gold DPS because numbers wise, gold is the biggest elo, and DPS is the most popular thing to play. And so in theory, this should hit the most amount of players of any video, as far as being tips that they can actively use right now. Still very helpful to watch like a master review, but if you're not master, it's not necessarily stuff that you're going to be doing at your elo. Okay, so I like that you were on the high ground, and I like that you could hit some shots on there, farm the diva and stuff. You totally could have kept the high ground. So it's just a Genji, and there's a mini right there, and you have your heal pad on cooldown, so you could have stayed here. The Genji should not kill you when you have both of those abilities. It's just by rotating out of the high ground and into the high ground, you're spending quite a bit of time out of the fight, which makes it so their tanks can aggress easier and stuff because they don't have you there to kind of push them away. Okay, so now you probably run away. There's no mini, no heal pad, or he runs away. Okay. At this point, that flank going up there and then going back and then going up there and then going back used so much time that you didn't end up doing very much this fight. You had some value because you kept the Ashe busy and you kept the Genji busy, but if they would have just ignored you or killed you, you wouldn't have had very much value. So at that point, I like to circle back around to my team and kind of play with them. Cool. So maybe leave the Genji alone and start trying to kill your enemies. Think about targets and who's really good at killing who. You know, for example, like getting a hit scan against a Pharah, getting a Brig against a Tracer, things like that. Genji is not, you know, soldier's ideal target. And so you can spend a lot of time trying to kill a Genji and basically do nothing just because they weren't really built to fight each other. Same way a Genji can spend a lot of time going for a soldier and do nothing. With his healing pad and stuff, it can be really easy to sustain against a Genji. Okay, so your ult here, my biggest complaint about it is twofold, okay? So first and foremost, the fact that you popped it when you couldn't see anything and you're not talking with your team. So let's say you were stacked with this main tank, or the main tank was just doing well this game or whatever, and he calls, oh, we just demeched Diva. Then maybe it is a really good time to ult because she can't eat your ult at all, and you can get a lot of kills. But when you ulted, there was no voice comms, and you couldn't see anything. And so you have no clue. What if all of your enemies had accidentally just fallen in that hole? Or what if all of your enemies were holding back here, behind their Rhine shield? What if they were circling around, so they were in this room, and so the Rhine shield is right here? You would have just spent your entire ult shooting at a shield, and your ult would have been pointless. And you would have never been able to change that because you didn't look. You ulted here, you don't even know what's going on. You haven't even seen an enemy yet. And then my other main complaint, and this is more minor, but you so easily could have killed the baby diva. So easily, look at this. You stay here for 2 seconds, especially with Soldier Sprint. You could have killed her and ran away, and if she can't remech, that's big for your team. So your team actually got the Ashe right away. So you guys started this a 5v6, and you have res, and with using your ult, your team should have an easy time winning this fight. But it wasn't as easy because you couldn't see when you used your ult, and then you couldn't farm the baby diva when you used your ult. And so it made it a slightly more difficult. The enemy team got a little bit more percent than they should have. And so it's just not ideal the way we did that. And like, this is a fine position that you're holding here. Just keep standing up there, keep farming them. As long as you're aware of where the Ashe is, she's your only threat up there. I don't like that you just watched that a Genji was farming your Ana and you just left her alone. And yes, this is after talking about how Genji's not a big threat or not your ideal target. But if you, when you looked right here, you can see your Ana's outline and you can see the Genji right there. And this isn't even the best angle. You can see him a little bit more here. And so you just kind of left your Ana to fight him alone. You were like, yep, forget my Ana. And then you all kind of died. So super unfortunate. Cool. So at that point, you either needed to run away or die on point. If you want to die on point, do it. Your enemy team caps slower. They don't start capping until you respawn or until you have died, and so that makes it so there's less useless time respawning and stuff like that. But you let them cap the majority of the point and then tried to get back on point and died, and so you ended up delaying your whole team by 10 seconds while you respawned. So definitely be careful with that. If you've seen any of my VOD reviews before, you know I do not comment on aim. I don't think that aim is a very useful thing to comment on. There is no magical number. Please kill the baby diva. You're killing me with that. If you're visoring and there's a baby diva, that is the easiest target on the planet. And they wouldn't have a diva flying around point getting kills right now. But what I was saying is I don't comment on aim. Your aim is going to be what it is and what it needs to be. Your aim can always improve. You can always get better with your aim, and it will pretty much always help you as a player get better. But your aim is where it needs to be if you're at this rank. So clearly you can aim at least as good as a gold can. And if you've been to plat, then you can aim the way that you need to for plat. Will warming up help? Will doing drills help? Will whatever help? Maybe. But aim is like usually like, I don't mention aim unless they're like Grandmaster and struggling with aim, because you can get to Grandmaster and have no aim whatsoever. I actually really like, for a gold player especially, a lot of your positioning on the fact that it's been keeping you alive and keeping you safe. Most of your positioning stuff has come from a lot of like micro stuff. Like, you know that you need like a high ground and it's a good high ground, but you spend too long rotating in between that high ground and the low ground. Or you know that there's a mini by you, and so you play around it, but then you grab it like as soon as you take any damage, or maybe you need to wait just a tiny bit longer. Or like kind of I covered earlier, like dying on point if you're going to die anyway. If you can get out, get out. If you're going to die anyway, die on point. And so some stuff like that, but your positioning for a gold especially is not too bad.
You're going right.
As you start to kind of climb more, even if you play only Soldier, you'll start to realize that because of Soldier's sprint, he can escape and get into so many situations and high grounds and stuff like that. And these specific maps that we're playing on aren't necessarily the best for it. Oasis just doesn't have like a plethora of flanks and stuff like that. But like on like Route 66, for example, there is so many good places that you can sprint to as Soldier, and then you can sprint back to the fight and get like one kill, and it can work really, really well. I see why we used our visor there, because it kind of held the enemy team away, but really got to keep in mind, you need to make sure that if you don't demech the diva, that there is people away from the diva, because in that case, they were all... Oh, shoot your helix. It has splash. Please. No, please. Why did you not shoot your helix rocket? Just real quick. Shoot it against that wall and the splash damage would have killed her.
Ash 1, upstairs.
And that has been the majority of your issues. You haven't done stuff like shot your helix there, like farmed the diva when you were ulting, and you'll start having a lot better time. And see, we had the easiest kill ever on that Ashe when she was down below, but now we've done this full circle, we're in big danger, the enemy team has capped the point, so even though we killed the Ashe, we're just staggering. That was really, really bad on our part. Like, that was the worst play that we've had the entire game. Your helix only had 2 seconds left on the cooldown, why wouldn't you just wait? Totally could have waited there. And you could have hit that one shot to finish her off. You're really scared of diva bombs. So whenever there's a diva bomb, you like forget everything that you're doing. Which is actually something that lower elo players do commonly. It's not okay to just stay and die to a diva bomb, but it's even less okay to not do anything when there's a diva bomb. You just like immediately run away, even though maybe you were about to get a kill, maybe there's good stuff going on, etc, etc, but you just immediately run away when there's a diva bomb. And something that I will always tell like every single player that's below like a master rank, and you may have seen it in some of my other videos, and you will continue probably to see it in my future videos, you have to hit tab more. You didn't even know that they switched to Reaper, and that's such a big switch in your play style. And if that Reaper switches to Widow, that's such a big switch in your play style. And if that Hammond switches to Ryan, that's such a big switch. You have to hit tab more so that you can win that information battle. It's so important, and it's such an easy way to start doing better. If you just hit tab every once in a while and think, what else do the enemy team, what else does the enemy team have, and what else do we have, and what is the enemy team playing, you'll start having a lot better time. So Reaper's a big switch from the proper soldier play style, but I'm curious if you'll kind of have the same problems, where you're taking like very safe angles, where you're kind of going around, not totally focusing targets. These last couple seconds, I just want to talk about your general awareness so that it can help you think about this in the future and stuff like that. So when you go inside here, when you wraith inside, you can see that there's an enemy Ryan right there. And it takes you a really long time to react to him, even though that actually could have farmed your health back, killing the Ryan. And then here It takes you a really long time to react that there's a Reaper flanking. There's the Reaper. And a voice call even would have massively helped to call out to your team like, hey, there's the Reaper.
Reaper's there, back up.
Good call. That was 100% the right call. You would have farmed your Ryan super easily. You know, you actually get more healing per second than the damage that Bob does when you're shooting him as Reaper now. So you could have stood right in front of that Reaper and just farm, or right in front of that Bob and just continually farmed him. Really weird use of your ult here because your team was up 6v3. And so I don't believe that your ult was necessary, and I don't believe that an ult is ever necessary pretty much when it's 6v3. You wasted an ult, and it's a rather decent ult too. Reaper's ult can get a lot of damage, it can hold an area. Okay, so your team had a real communication issue here, where your Ryan ended up going totally separate from the rest of your team, and that was partially your fault because you had chose to go through the room when almost every other member of your team had chose to go around, and for some reason your diva decided to follow you, and your Ana wasn't respawned yet when you guys started your push. So you guys had a ton of communication issues there that very well could have been this loss. Because if you didn't have that, frankly, really good ult right there, you guys would have lost. Do you see how that diva's dying on the point? And so that's really stopping you guys from capping it, and it makes her respawn time more useful? You put yourself in kind of a useless position here, which I don't understand. You took yourself so far from the fight, and you used your fade. And again, I think it's because you're kind of playing with that safe positioning again. You didn't want to die there, you didn't want to risk it at all, but you put yourself in such a safe position that you couldn't really get any value at all either. Same issue that you had on Soldier a bit. I liked your positioning as far as being safe, and as far as getting some value, but because you would be like threatened by a Genji, or because you'd be like threatened by an enemy Reaper or something like that, you would totally run away, and it takes you so much time to reposition. So on both of your DPS, definitely kind of think about where you're holding, and it's a really common issue. It's not just you, it's really common for people to say like, oh, I know this spot is good, so I have to hold this spot, or I know I want to be high ground, so I have to hold high ground. But like, for example, on Soldier, playing Soldier kind of like how you play McCree, where you can kind of play with your team, use your flashbang to do like high damage, can be really valuable. So when you were struggling to hold that high ground, you could have kind of played your Soldier more like a McCree, stayed around your team, used your Helix rocket when anyone got too close, helped them melt the shield to win the shield war, and you guys probably would have had a really good time. But definitely, I would focus on that. Definitely focus on maximizing a lot of your ability usage. Like when you didn't rocket that Ash, Helix rocket that Ash, that was really painful to watch. And you did it twice. Once when she was up top and you didn't get the splash damage, and another time when she was asleep and you just didn't wait the extra 1 second that you needed. And then lastly, your alt. I don't think that you had a good alt on Soldier. Your Reaper had one good alt. And so you need to focus on your alts more because you had what, 5, 6 alts in this game, and one of them really got you guys value, and it was almost for different reasons. One of them, or two of them, you know, you just didn't commit on Soldier to like the baby diva and stuff. One of them you used when a diva was in a position to defense matrix the whole thing. One of your Reaper alts you used when your team had already won the fight. And so really kind of look at that and think about what you could do to get more value out of it. Your alt will get more value with 1 kill on a support than you'll get just shooting it into a defense matrixing diva the entire time. Alts don't need to be 6 kills. Whoever gets the first kill in a team fight wins something like 70% of the team fights, or wins something like 70% of the time. And so it's big. And so even if you get 1, maybe 2 kills with your alt, you did great. And your team should win now. 6v4, are you kidding me? I would love that all day. If every single fight, me and my allies were able to use one alt to turn it into a 6v4, that would be fantastic. Your alt doesn't have to be a 6k, and you don't have to run away from diva bombs right away.